Hey, Jimbo, you ready for this deal?
Live action.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, and now Saucy Calf, traditional Native American food, all located right here in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian himself. Probably wrote a song on the way over here, Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. Good to see you. What do we got going on today?
Hey, Cody, boy, it's another great day in Osage, man. And boy, that saucy calf, I might eat there again today.
Trying all that fry bread out's really busted the pearl snaps out of my shirt.
I know. Hey, Cody, we've got a guy that really doesn't need any introduction. I mean, Rob Smets is a absolute celebrity in the rodeo bullfighting world. You know, you see him everywhere. He's a 6-time NFR bullfighter, 8 times PBR bullfighter. He spent 20 years on the Wrangler Bullfighting Tour, won the championship 5 times, which is a record. Just done everything. He's in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, Oklahoma City Hall of Fame, the Bull Riders Hall of Fame, and I'm sure
the president of the Rodeo Historical
Society. He's the president
Society.
of the Rodeo Historical Society down there. So
he must know a little something. He's going to put you to the test today, Jimbo.
Yeah, I know it. And also sitting in with us is Dale Davis, good friend of our podcast, and he's going to sit in with us and try to keep us straight.
Are you sound man, Dale? What all do you do?
Part-time.
Part-time sound man?
He's Rob Smets' main sound man. That's it.
Perfect.
Well, guys, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Likewise.
What brings you to Oklahoma?
Well, we're down there at the Iowa Tribe Rodeo in Perkins, Oklahoma. We had our first performance last night, and we've got a wind-up perf tonight.
Wow.
And get to do a little church service prior to the rodeo tonight. We're going to go on there at 5:30 and do a little short church service, and then we'll go into rodeo.
Hope the weather doesn't get bad. Boy, they've got some thunder boomers in the forecast.
The Father's got it in His hands.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what we got.
You'll be fine.
That don't stop very many rodeos.
No, it doesn't.
No. You know, all the years I rodeoed, one performance we got rained out that they canceled a perf. And of all places, it was at Weatherford, Texas, at Parker County Arena, and that arena's got a whole lot of sand in it. Of all places, if we'd have waited 5 more minutes, the rain would have stopped. We could have rodeoed, but that's the only time in 30 years I've ever had a rodeo perf rained out, or what they called it.
Right.
Wow. I went down to Sonora one time. They canceled the rest of Sonora one time because of the rain.
Yeah.
But that's the only other
Have
one.
they ever canceled Cheyenne? They never have they?
No.
And boy, they've had some weather up there. My dad said one time he was up there roping, I think it was in the morning, and it blew so hard that, there's a lot of gravel in that arena, that it's blowing gravel up on the scoreboard behind the chutes.
Wow.
That's hard to imagine, but he said it was hitting that scoreboard back.
Sounded like hail.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
I was with Mike Chase one time. He made the short round there, and it was raining so hard when he ran his steer, I couldn't even see him out there.
Yeah, right. Man, oh man. Where were you raised up at, Rob?
Well, I was born in California, Palo Alto, California, by Stanford University, that area,
Right.
San Jose. My dad did heavy construction work. I lived in Thailand 3 years, 1966 to 1969. We lived in Thailand during the Vietnam War. My dad built the Utapao Air Force Base and then the Sadahip Naval Port. We were there 3 years. Singapore for a year, Puerto Rico for a year, Australia for 3 years, and then we came home the end of my 8th grade year, and we stayed there in California, and that's
Wow.
where I graduated high school in Salinas.
That was quite an upbringing. We could do a whole podcast on all the places he lived and all those stories. Man.
Salinas, did you grow up around that rodeo?
Well, Salinas, I went to the Catholic boys' school there in Salinas, and it wasn't 4 miles from the rodeo grounds there, and so been around it, and I mean, Salinas is a great rodeo, but there's a whole lot of good rodeos out there on the West Coast. You had the Cow Palace, which in the day was the rodeo because it was the end of the year. That's the place where dreams were made or dreams were broken right there. And, they used to have that old bar down there at the corner of the Cow Palace. And them guys were either in there drinking away their sorrows or drinking in celebration because they were making the big show and getting to go to Oklahoma City at that time.
Did you ever go to that, what was it called, the bucking ball they used to have out there?
Gary LeFew's bucking ball.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you had to go there. And the Cowboy boxing matches.
Oh, wow.
They used to have Cattleman's Night on Thursday night. And then from the rodeo, you'd go downstairs. They had the big cow barn down there, had Sean Davis help get everything set up. They had boxing rings in there. They had smokers. We had boxing matches down there. It was good.
You know that old famous picture of Slim Pickens?
Yep.
Getting in a fight right there in the arena at the Cow Palace.
Yep, right there in the moat.
I wonder if that's when the boxing matches started.
That
Hey,
probably
boys, we'll
helped
just take
get
her
'em started.
downstairs and have boxing matches after
Yeah.
this deal.
Yeah, they were good. I fought a few times in the boxing matches there.
I bet tensions are running pretty high around that time of year for a lot of guys,
They can be.
They need
and,
to let some steam off.
Guys that had grudges, it'd be like, okay, Cow Palace, let's do it. And
Yeah.
they'd put them gloves on and away they'd go.
Who'd you fight there?
I fought a couple I fought a horse shearer one year. Never really any cowboy. They just whoever they got me stuck with. Jack Roddy'd get me in a match and away we'd go.
But them horseshoes are pretty stout.
They were pretty stout, but all that stoutness doesn't always work out.
Yeah, right.
You still got to be in shape. You still got to have some gas. Those legs are what's the most important because if you don't have something to carry you, it doesn't matter what the rest of you can do.
Right. Well, did you start out competing in the rodeo?
I did. I've worked every event. I got on my first couple of calves as a kid in Australia, and that's what kind of sparked the interest in rodeo. And then, I came back home. We tried roping, and Jack Roddy helped me with bulldog, and I bulldog made the high school state finals in the bulldogging event. Tried broncs, tried riding bareback. Got on bareback horses, rode bulls some, and one day at our high school rodeo, as I was sitting on the fence after I'd got on one, those guys were out there fighting bulls, and I was, get up there, hit them on the head. And they said, well, if you think it's so easy, get your butt off the fence and show us how. And not that I did anything fantastic, but a couple of near misses, and it was the wildest game of tag I'd ever played. And it was pretty cool. And so the next year, the guy that was working, Frank Stubby Gomes, that was working our high school rodeos, graduated and was moving up at bigger amateur rodeos out there in California for Dan Russell. It opened a spot for my senior year, and Donnie Landis and I started working on high school rodeos, and I picked up on it pretty quick and kind of stepped out of competing as much and worked on my bullfighting. Pretty soon they were paying me for something I was having fun doing, and lo and behold, I did it for 30 years.
Did you have any of those older clowns that kind of show you the ropes?
Bill Landis, Donnie's dad, would come to those rodeos, and he'd fought bulls back with, as we were talking earlier about Slim and that, and in that era, and he would say, you need to try this and a little bit of that, and he'd kind of guide and coach me there, and then, like I said, Frank Gomes helped me a little bit. A guy named Brian McNair from down out of Fort Worth. I really liked watching McNair fight bulls, and so when I first got my pro card, we worked several rodeos together, and he helped get me started. And then I, fell in at the right time under the tutelage a little bit of Wick, Skipper.
Oh, wow.
Miles and I have become good buddies, and Jimmy Anderson. And if Rob Smets is a combination of those four guys. I got a little here, a little there, and picked on them, and that's what ended up making me.
You guys were my heroes growing up. I was a Wrangler bullfighting nut. I mean, for some reason, a lot of the rodeos that had steer roping, they had Wrangler bullfighting, like
Right.
Dodge City. Even right here in Pawhuska had a Wrangler bullfight. Do you know that, Jimbo?
No.
Yeah, it was a pretty big rodeo at one time for a couple of years. And Quail Dobbs, he was my number one hero.
Quail
I wanted
was
to be
the
a
man.
barrel man. I didn't actually wanted to be the Wrangler bullfighting
Right,
guy, you know.
right.
But hell, I watched you and Miles Hare and Greg Romer and Bumblebee.
Yep.
And, you know, all of them. You know, you guys were just my heroes growing up. I had little bitty autographed pictures about this big
Yep.
of every one of you, and I still got my Crooked Nose poster somewhere right here. in the
Crooked
museum.
Nose, the Beast.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
How'd you get the nickname Kamikaze Kid?
You know, I had some guys start calling me the kamikaze, saying, "What have you got a death wish or whatever?" You know, and I said, "I don't have a death wish. I don't do anything I don't think I can get away with." They're just, you know, and the jumps backing off and jumping one over that barrel got me a lot more rodeos, and you know, so if it was going to get me bigger and better events to get to go to, that I'm going to take a chance to get there and separate yourself from the rest of the crowd. You know, as you mentioned with that group of guys just a moment ago, a lot of guys with a lot of talent, and there's only so many of those great big rodeos. So you know, you got to get yourself in the right place, be willing to go spend some time on the radio, doing the interviews, doing what it takes to help with the promotion of the events, and you know, the jumps helped open the door for things, so I was going to back off, pull my hat down, and go for it.
Who was the first guy to ever jump a bull? Do you know?
Junior Meeks, I know jumped a lot of bulls, but probably the best two guys that I've ever seen jump bulls off the ground in my career would be Miles Hare and Donnie Sparks. Those guys talk about ability to get off the ground. Now, there's a whole bunch of those young guys right now that have got so much athleticism in the BFOs and that UBF bullfights that they're going on right now, doing the backflip and stuff. There's some really tremendous athletes out there.
Jimbo, there's one guy. He turns his back to the chute when they let the bull out, and he does a backflip over the bull. First thing he does right out of the box.
Oh.
Ain't that wild?
Who was it that did was it Ross Hill or somebody that would get his phone or his iPad?
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Ross Hill had the phone and would catch him and throw that juke right there.
Take a selfie.
Tuckness did the backflip, and there's a few of them. I think Tyler Manziel. There's a few of them boys now that do that backflip. The only thing about starting it out like that is if you get clipped right off the bat, it's pretty hard to get back to your game, rather than having the big sell at the end.
Yeah.
To throw your hat and say, "There it is, guys," and show the control. Because if they clip you and get you a little bit off, it's just hard to get back to your game.
I always hated it when they would call it after their first whistle. The bullfighters didn't go on for the extra.
Right, for the
40
extra
seconds
30,
or something like that.
because it would be 40 and then another 30, yeah. And back in the first days, it was we had a 60-second whistle and a 90-second whistle back when we first started, yeah.
Wow.
How do you?
Sorry, Jimbo, go on.
Well, I was just going. How do you juke one of those bulls? I mean, you fake him one way and then go there. How do you get him in the lead you want?
Well, and you just said the key word right there, Jimbo. Getting the lead, getting them to move over there. So as those bulls, there's a reason in Mexico they kill them bulls the first time they fight them. They are not a dumb animal. The other big old wives' tale is everybody thinks that, you know, what about the red? Well, bulls are colorblind, but they're coming to the movement is what they're coming to. That's why when those matadors cape them, they stay so still, and that cape is what's doing all the movement, and they get that bull chasing that cape. So with that, you just got to keep moving forward. Wick was the one that taught me the hop. Stay square. Cardinal sin of a linebacker. And most guys can relate to this because we all played a little bit of football. Cardinal sin is getting your feet crossed over. The last thing, when you go down that line, you want to stay square. I want to be able to go either way. The same thing with fighting bulls. I want to come across him. I want to get him to cut me off. I want to get him to where he sees that I'm hopping this way, that he's starting to go to where I'm going, and then I'm going to keep hopping that way a little more so that he gets to that striking distance, he gets to that lead, and then in order for him to get back when I throw my juke that way, to really get his weight over here, in order to get back this way, he's got to be able to gather up change leads and get that right leg out in front of him, because it's physically impossible for him to make the turn to the right on a left-hand lead. He's going to go down. So just like football, a lot of misdirection. You've got to be able to judge that distance. Just like football, once again, I throw that fake from 10 yards out. Well, yeah, he kind of takes it, but he's still got the angle of pursuit on me. And it's the same thing with fighting bulls.
How many times can you do that before they get smart?
Well, and then the other thing is guys get comfortable with, they want to go around one way. Guys are more left-handed than right-handed, you know, and being able to watch old video, watch how those guys, the last few guys that you compete with, how they handled him, looking for the bull's strength, and boy, everybody wants to keep going this way on him, and he's sure falling over. Crooked Nose, everybody wanted to go to the muley side, and Crooked Nose got to where he could drop that shoulder and get over there, and he'd still whack you in the middle of the back with that horn on the right side. But the best thing to do to Crooked Nose was to fake that you were going to the muley side and go back to the horn side first. And then at least it made him have to start thinking, whoops, wait a minute. And then when he cut, then you could throw the fake to the horn side and go that way. But most guys all wanted to try to beat him to that muley side, and they paid the price for it. He got 90% of the guys that he faced.
Well,
He seemed to know how to get that one horn up in the baggies or something and snatch them and carry them around.
He knew how to reach. That one year at the college national finals, he shot Miles Hare out of there like Miles had been shot out of a 308. He sent him out through there pretty good.
what about the Mexican bulls? Was there a big difference in fighting them and the natives?
The Mexican bulls, just lower center of gravity, a lot more aggressive. I preferred the Mexicans over the big bulls, just because those big bulls kind of, you beat them a couple of times, they kind of have a little more tendency to want to set up, and the Mexican bulls just kept coming, and they fit my style probably better.
You know, I saw growing up, I would always be amazed how guys could get in the pen with like Crooked Nose and Purple People Eater and feed them and stuff, and they didn't bother anybody. It didn't seem like when they were just resting behind the buck and shoots, you know, during the day. But the Mexicans, I didn't see anyone jacking around with them like
those
them old big bulls.
I mean, and it's genetics, just like how so much has happened in our sport. The buck and bull business, the bucking horse business right now has gone through the roof with those guys raising great bucking horses, and you can see how much stronger the horse business has got. The fighting bulls, those calves, they are bred to fight. You know, there's no, you don't have to make them mad. I was at the Borba Ranch one time, and some of the Mexican cows had got in with the domestic herd. And so we ran everything to the arena. They had their own bullfight arena right there in Escalon, just out of Oakdale there. They had their own arena. We ran everything up in there. Well, it happened to be a time when there'd been a pretty good rain and everything was muddy, and everything's getting stirred up, and they're all on the prod anyway, and they knock a calf down. And this calf gets down in the mud. We get things sorted around. We go grab this calf and get him picked up, carry him over to the side by the tack room, and get him all washed off. They give him a little shot of B12 just to give him a little help, you know, and turn him loose to let him go. And the first thing he does is turn around, and here he comes. You know, he's ready to fight, and they're just that's how they're bred. You know, they test the heifers. They test those heifers, and the ones that fight and fight and fight and keep wanting to come to the game, those are the ones that get saved for the breeding program.
We had a bunch of roping steers come from Mexico one time, and I'm pretty sure they were crossbred with a Mexican fighting bull, because most of them looked like little Mexican fighters.
Right.
And they were mean. We had the steers down there at the Windy Ryan one time, and I think they had a 25-foot or 30-foot hand-pulled barrier. Well, these little steers, they went right for the guy pulling the flag in the barrier. And he got mucked out 3 or 4 times that day. Wow. I've never seen such a mean little set of steers.
So the guy pulling the barrier goes, you know what, I think we need to shorten the score a little bit.
Put a neck rope on this dude.
Get somebody come out here and help line them for me.
Yeah.
That you were talking about, that strain, the Corriente cattle that come from old Mexico. Years ago, you could get heifers across. or females, and then you can't now, I don't think. But the Rahone is what they were called. The ranch that I work for now, we wound up with a bunch of those Rahone cows, and they were pretty rank. I mean, no kidding. Before the day's over, somebody's going to get mucked out or smoked, or a horse mashed on pretty good. Just every time you worked them, but that was the strain. Like that's just in them. We didn't fool with them or try to sort the ones that fought out or keep the ones. All we were doing was raising roping cattle at the time. So, but them old Rahones, you knew which one of them. They'd come out of the bunch with their head up and come. They're looking for something to put a horn in. They're not messing around.
The best way to get around those kind of cattle, though, is rather than being the hard head and wanting to get on the muscle, is once you get one of them picked off where he gets off to himself and squares off in that corner, make the trip down the alley, go bring 3 or 4 back, get them together. They're like deer. Mm-hmm. Once one flows, they start flowing. But if you get one singled off by themselves, they're going to stand and fight, and then the war is on.
Growing up, we had a bunch. My dad was practicing on these Scottish Highlander bulls, and they were mean as hell. And this was when I wanted to be the rodeo clown and barrel man and possibly bullfighter. And our arena at the time was like 300 foot wide, 500 foot long, crazy.
It was a cow pasture.
Crazy big, right on the Arkansas River, so the sand was about this deep. And he put me out there in the middle of it. Got one of these little bulls nice and mad, said, "All right, it's time for you to go to training for your bullfighting dreams." And that was the day that I lost the urge to be a Wrangler bullfighter. Right after that. So, my favorite guy to watch growing up, you mentioned Miles Hare. I always loved watching him too for some reason. But Leon Coffey, man, when he was actually bullfighting, it was the wildest thing you ever saw. I don't know if he ever even got in the Wrangler bullfights, but every stock contractor had one mean bull they'd save till after the last bull rider, and they'd let the clowns play around. And Leon would throw like this funk music on, and he'd do the splits in front of them and
get out there and do his dance. Hey, the boogeyman, he could sell rodeos now.
What about? I mean, was that not one of the most amazing, honestly, bullfighting feats in the world? Just the way he did it. I mean, it was just. It was great. Do you remember watching that?
Oh,
Rob?
yeah. I got to work a few rodeos with Leon. You worked the Cow Palace in San Francisco with Leon, and Leon, that music starts going and he starts snapping that finger.
That dude can dance too.
Down and do the splits and come back up out of it. The guy was a great athlete, really great athlete.
And funny too.
Oh, yeah.
On top of it. Yep. He was just great. I wanted to make sure I got that out there, that he actually was a bullfighter too. Yep. I know everybody knows him.
And so Leon made the finals. He worked the finals as a bullfighter. He worked the finals as a barrel man, and he's also been the clown of the year. I mean, for as far as covering the gamut of the sport as a rodeo clown bullfighter, there it is, right there.
Quail even bullfight when at the beginning of his career.
There's six of them, I think. Quail, Wilbur Plogger. Wilbur Plogger made the NFR in the steer wrestling and worked there.
I remember as a kid, he'd bulldog in his clown outfit.
Bulldog in his outfit. Yep. Jerry Wayne Olson.
Cajun Kid.
No, Cajun didn't go into. I'm not sure who else. I'm not.
Did you enjoy protecting the Cowboys or doing the Wrangler bullfighting? Which did you like best?
Well, obviously, protecting Cowboys is what it's all, was what it was all about. The bullfights was an opportunity to go make some extra cash, and and go out there and square it off. I enjoyed them both. I hear guys sometimes now going, "Well, I've got this rodeo and it's got a bull, but I'm not going to compete in the bullfight because what if I get hurt?" I can't ever remember a time going into the arena saying, "What if I get hurt?" We didn't have miles. We didn't have that attitude. It was an opportunity to make more. Bring the cash. Get the checkbooks out. Let's go, boys.
Yeah.
And if it's your time, it's your time.
You had your share of injuries. Broke your neck like 3 times or something.
We could have gone all day without this part of the conversation. Yeah, I did. I broke my neck the first time in 1992. I broke it the second time in 1996. The first time in 92, we were in Monroe, Louisiana. Ultimate Warrior knocked me down, and I was out in front of him as I was somersaulting backwards. His legs and my legs entangled, and he stumbled on me, and I broke 4, 5, and 6, which is the ones that run your arms and legs. And at that time, that Utley from the Detroit Lions had broke his, and he was in a wheelchair. And, you know, there was a couple of those football players that got injured like that. And it was spooky. I remember hitting the ground and laying on the ground at Monroe, and first thing was I pulled my 2 arms. I made sure I pulled both legs up, and I just said, "Get the board, get me out of here." I could feel the sharp pain in my neck, and wasn't the time to be the tough guy. It spooked me, and fortunately, I mean, I've got a little tingle in this finger that I've always had for quite a while, but other than that, you know, it doesn't turn a lot. But I'm not in a chair, and I'm not in a box, and God's good. And so came back from that and ended up. I won my final world championship 2 years later. The funny part of that is pre being saved days. You know, everybody said I would never fight bulls again when I broke my neck, and you know, got a chip on my shoulder, and I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And I came back 93. I ended up 3rd for the world. 94. I won the world, dedicated the year to Carla, my wife. Had a bad first 2 rounds and came back and won the final 2 rounds of the NFR and won the world. And, you know, got back to the South Gold Coast that night and got up to my room and sat in the room there and sat on the edge of the bed, and all the peace and the comfort that I thought I was going to get from winning a 5th world title, it wasn't there. There wasn't any more happiness than there had ever been. And it was probably when I sat on the edge of that bed that night and cried like a baby, you know. And finally, doors opened. I got an opportunity to go to a rodeo school Bible camp and got saved and found out that God had other plans for me that weren't, you know, trying to get us from being so self-centered and about ourselves and into others. And things started turning around. Things look pretty good. Sometimes things look pretty good from the outside looking in, and yet, you know, on the outside, everything in the arena was looking pretty good, but the wheels were falling off on the inside, you know. And so I'm living proof God's merciful and forgiving, and I tried Him way harder than I was supposed to, but you know, it's been a 26-year journey now, and things have sure turned around. At 65 years old, I'm probably at more peace and happiness than any time I won a gold buckle.
You're 65 years old?
I'll be 65 in September.
Holy moly. You're looking good for 3 broken necks and 65 years old. Jeez Louise.
I think God does that to us a lot. I think that's part of the makeup whenever He made humans, was He put a void in there that you realize it's there sometime, but then whenever you realize what filled the void, you don't realize how big the void really was. You know, that's what He's talking about. Yeah. He just won his 5th gold buckle, and he couldn't understand why he was feeling empty. You know, yeah. It was like that. You got a jug with nothing in it.
Yep.
And then when you figured out what's supposed to go in that jug, you realize how big the hole really was. And now
so you know, the biggest thing that I found out about God's work is, it's more important for me to see a smile on your face, Cody, than on mine. Because when I see the smile on your face, it puts a smile on my face. Being able to go out now and focus on trying to be an encourager and lift somebody up. And part of where I'm going to go tonight on my deal, you know, in the Bible, in the book of James, he tells us, consider it pure joy for the trials that we face, because it gives us patience and strength to persevere. Well, trials are anything but joyous. But down the road, the different trials that we're going to go through, divorce, abuse, whatever it may, addictions, you know. And as I point at you 3 guys going, my hand's up. I've been through all of them, okay? I'm not, you know. But we go through those things with the opportunity of down the road, the Father's going to put somebody before us that we're going to be able to say, hey, I got something for you. Think about this. I've been there. And we're going to be able to relate, and we're going to be able to try to encourage a brother and lift somebody up. and that's what he wants from us. The true things are, right? Love, peace, joy.
Yeah.
The fruits of the Spirit from our Lord and Savior. That's what it's about.
That's all it really is.
Wow. What was the best bull ride you ever saw, Rob?
Whew.
You had a close front row seat to many.
You know, I snuck into the Cow Palace the night Donnie Gay rode Oscar.
Ooh,
for 97 points, 1977, and Wick Peth won the very first bullfighting contest at the Cow Palace. So Donnie Gay riding Oscar. I was there. You know, Michael Gaffney rode Little Yellow Jacket. I was there when Jim Sharp rode the first man to ride all 10. You know, I've been blessed, especially with the PBR. The bull rides have been phenomenal. Chris Shivers, Gaffney, Adriano Marias, you know, Tough, Sharp.
Mike Lee. I used to like to watch Mike Lee.
Mike Lee. There's no backup in Mike Lee.
Right.
Mike Lee, the night that he won the world at the PBR Finals, we were in our bullfighter dressing room, and Mike Lee all of a sudden comes walking in and sets his bag down in there. It's on the final night. He doesn't want to be in the bull rider locker room. He comes into our locker room and just and you know how Mike is. He's got that look in his eye like the guy that you'd find it would be on the post office wall, on the top of the post office that we all talk about, you know, that could go postal, because he just was so focused on that, and had him a couple buckers that night, and he wasn't in there to talk to nobody. He just wanted to be away from all them other guys and not let anybody mess with him, and he went out there and won the world and got the job done. Mike Lee's a competitor, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, were you there the night that Terry Don West, they had to lower him down on that bounty bull over at the Lazy E, and he couldn't even stand on his own.
Yeah.
And they had to pick him up and put him on there, and he's supposed to win like $100,000 or something. I don't think he ever even got paid for that ride, but
Right.
man, that was a good
But he
ride.
rode
Bull
well.
Nanza or something, yeah, way back in the day before the PBR.
And then I was there the night
It was a
that
national televised deal.
Tough and Bodacious met head to head in Las Vegas, you know.
Tough
And
wouldn't let him carry him out of the arena, would he?
Well, let me tell you one thing before you ever think of Sunday punching Tough Hedeman. That he never was knocked out.
Bodacious couldn't do it.
Bodacious hit him
Broke every bone in his face and it didn't knock
with a
him
heck of
out.
a Sunday punch.
No human's gonna do it.
So you might want to think twice before you rear back.
Hey, let's go back to Wick Peth for a minute. You keep mentioning him. To me,
The king.
To me, when I look at Wick Peth, old things about him, to me, he was like the first guy that was just like a professional cowboy saver, professional bullfighter. He didn't wear any makeup. It always struck me as strange, you know, as I was a kid, but as I got older, and then it seems like you kind of took what he had, and when you changed the style on how they dressed, it went a little different. But tell us about Wick Peth real quick, and then tell us about how you revolutionized bullfighting the way it is now with
The jerseys.
jerseys and stuff.
Well, Wick was the king. You know, Skipper made it an art.
He used a
But-
big.
but-
He was one of the last guys that used a inner tube. I remember Skipper Voss used to haul a big inner tube around with him quite a few places.
Wilbur hauled the inner
So
tube
did,
more than anybody. But Wick was about cowboy protection. Wick was the first man that could command a price for being a cowboy protector, being the bullfighter, not being the funny man, not putting the makeup on. His job, he didn't go do acts. There was nothing. His job was to make sure that they rode in and that they walked out. And he was the first guy to be able to command that price and really go mix it up with bulls even afterwards. Skipper was the one that started dressing it up, the step-through move. Him and Liesl Harris were still a whole bunch back together. Skipper taught me how to do the step-through on a chair in the dressing room in Omaha, Nebraska. He said, hey, kept getting cut. We were talking about leads and getting cut off. And Skipper said, I need you to do this. I need you to do that hop that Wick's doing and then add to it and throw this fake. And then when you do that fake, then you're going to step back through this chair. And he taught me how to do it on a chair in the dressing room. We're in the bullfight against each other. And he shows me how to do it. And I go out there and win the go-round on Survey, had them big Sloan Williams bulls, all them great big brindles. We're in Omaha, Nebraska, and I stepped through this son of a gun and just jerk it out of him, and come back in the dressing room. I'm just on cloud nine, and Skipper goes, "It works, good stuff," But Skipper passing it on down the line, and that's the great thing about the guys I was around. Miles and I, the very first time we ever fought bulls together, So I said Wick won the bullfight at the Cow Palace in 1977. 1978, I'm standing there in 77 bumping my buddies going, I just got approved for my pro card. And I'm bumping my buddies that I'd gone to high school with. Like I said, we'd snuck in. I got to be in this bullfight next year. I got to be here next year. Well, lo and behold, I did make the Cow Palace. I won the Cow Palace bullfight the next year. Miles had been in it. Skipper was in it. Bob Romer was in it. There were, So the next year, Jim Shoulders hires me to go to Baton Rouge and to Monroe, like I was telling that story in the museum there a little bit ago. And I end up, we get to Monroe, Louisiana, and he's got me and Miles hired together. Well, we've never worked together. We've never met each other. We met each other at the Cow Palace, and it was just a, "Hi, how you doing?" And that was it. So we get there, and Shoulders always starts the rodeo with a bull riding and end the rodeo with a bull riding. We run around the first 2 or 3, and we're bouncing off each other, and we're digging it out of them. We're both going at it pretty good. And I ricochet off of Miles on one, and he looks over at me, and he goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "Well, you're the great Miles Hare. Do something." And the next thing we're like this, nose to nose, right there in the arena. Shoulders rides up to John Taylor, and he goes, "What the hell are they doing up there?" And he goes, "You got 2 young bulls and too small a pasture." And so Shoulders, he rides through me and Miles Hare with his horse, and he goes, "Boys, you don't have to fight each other. I got plenty of them to fight." And he looked at his flank man. He said, "Put it on him, outside." And he just he'd buck one, turn one out, buck one, turn one out. And we went back, we got done with that first section. We sit in this chair. We got in the locker room, just like me and Jimbo here, we're sitting in this chair. And for an hour and 45 minutes till the next section, it's a stare down. We don't say nothing to nobody. We're just sitting there glaring at each other. So lo and behold, the next place we go, we get hired together at Fort Worth, Texas for the stock show. I can remember being in it about 13 performances. We were both worried about who was the guy so we were both used to being the guy that sold the show. Yeah. So we're ricocheting off each other. And I can remember it was about the 13th perf, me looking over at Miles and going, "Will you jump this son of a gun and get us out of here?" And then the brotherhood kind of come. Then we become good buddies. And 1983, I was so tired of winning second to Miles. 1981, Miles won the world. I won second. 1982, I go in the lead for the world. Skipper won the world. Miles won second. I won third. 1983, I finally win the world. But 1983, May of 83, we're at Fort Smith, Arkansas. And I look over at Miles. He's won 3 rounds in a row. I've won second 3 rounds in a row. And I said, "You know what? I'm going home. I'm done. I'm tired of winning second to you." It's like I mentioned as a kid, my dad did heavy construction work. He was in the union out there in California. My Italian mother was come home, get a job, get a real job, get some security, something that was stable, get in the union, have benefits, and finally I was like, "I'm going home." And Miles said, "Will you quit trying all the crazy shit and get back to the fundamentals and just go fight bulls?" And we went out the next night. I won the last go-round at Fort Smith. I won my next 5 bullfights in a row and won my first world title in Oklahoma City. And in the dressing room that night, Wick looks over at Miles and goes, "Why didn't you let him go home?"
You fought bulls in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, I fought bulls in Oklahoma, 81, 82, 83, and 84.
Well,
and then I was in.
I guess you are 65 years old.
I am old, huh? And then won the world in 85 and 86, the first 2 years in Vegas. 88, Miles and I, lo and behold, it comes down in 88, and we're dollar for dollar, penny for penny tied when it's all over. After 4 go-rounds at the finals and 30 rounds worth of bullfights during the year. And we look, and they've got 2 bulls in the back, 2 refight bulls. One's a good one, and one's a piece of crap. So basically, they want you to flip a coin for the world champ, you know. And I looked over at Miles and I said, Miles took gymnastics in high school. So whenever we would work rodeos together, they would introduce me. I'd tip my hat. They would introduce Miles and I would stand there like this and he would step forward and put his foot in my hands and I'd do this and he'd do a backflip, tip his hat, you know, Miles hair. So we're sitting in Thomas and Mack. We're going on, everything's happening in a hurry and we're tied and I said, man, that's no good with the way the refights are. One's going to get him and one's not. And I looked over at Miles and I said, I can't think of a better guy to share the world with. And I put my hands together like that and he smiled at me. He stepped forward and he stepped into my hand and we did like that. And I flipped him in the air and he tipped his hat. We looked at Greg Tusa from Wrangler and said, make another buckle, we're splitting it. And we grabbed each other's hands like this and made a victory lap around the arena. And that's the only year in the 20 years of the Wrangler bullfights there was a tie for the world championship. So talk about from wanting to go Fifth City in the arena to tying for the world to now we do schools together and finish each other's sentences. We've come a long ways.
You know, that goes back to every single event in rodeo, what Miles Hare told him is go back to the basics.
Yep.
How many times have, well, I don't know how many times that's been told to me, you know, roping steers. I've heard it, been told to every other cowboy, you know, from an older guy.
Right.
I mean, that's some great advice for anything you're doing.
There's no shortcuts. And there's no shortcuts in life.
Yeah.
You know, you get away. Sometimes you're going to get away with shortcuts and they're going to kind of lean you that way. But then when it comes time that you really need those fundamentals, it's pretty hard to want to dig down in that bag because you haven't trusted that fundamental. And now all of a sudden when the going got tough, it makes it even harder for you to depend on it because you ain't been using it.
Yep. You've saved a lot of cowboys, took a lot of hookings for cowboys. I bet they've come up to you and put their arm around you a few times and thanked you. Can you tell us about any of that?
You know, we were, I want to say it was in Indianapolis. Justin McBride. Well, McBride had won all those bull ridings in a row. They were giving those DeWalt suitcases away. And he'd won, it was like his 7th one that he'd won. And he walked into the dressing room and he said, hey, Smets, you got any power tools? And I said, oh, I got a couple, you know. And he goes, here, thanks for being there for me. And I broke down in tears. You know, I mean, I've had bull riders say, thank you, thanks for being there. Let me buy you a beer. And then the very next week, they didn't have $5 in their pocket and they expected you to buy them the beer right back. You know, and that's the way it is. But I mean, he handed me that suitcase and I was just like, I said, let me tell you what, I don't care how bad of a wreck you're in. If I got to dig a hole to China, I'll be there, you know. So, yeah, Justin McBride, that was probably the most memorable of all of them. Anything Cowboy do that make your job harder that you didn't like for him to do, you know, during the ride? Bad fundamentals not waiting for you, and guys that, you know, we're trained at the whistle according to fundamentals is you should always go away from the hand that the rider rides. If he rides right-handed at the whistle, I want to go around to the left. I want the rider always to get off on the side of the hand that he rides with. That way he shouldn't hang up. If they come off away from their hand, that's when that hand rolls over and the hang up. So when you start to make your move to take them away from the whistle and they happen to be leaned this way a little bit and they just open their hand and let one go and then you run one over the top of them and it's like, golly. Take, you know, if you've rode him 8 seconds, you can ride him 9 seconds. Give me a chance to get things set like they're supposed to be, especially on them bulls that are bad hookers. Let us get things set and we'll both get out of here safely.
Right.
Are you allowed to turn a bull back or anything while they're riding them? It's some stuff that I've never even known about.
At regular rodeos, but you know, you don't see a lot of guys have to turn bulls back due to the breeding programs anymore. They're not turning them back like they used to.
Gotcha.
But at the National Finals Rodeo, there's no turning them back. You just stand back. You're just there to be the bodyguard.
They let the bulls buck however they buck, and then you go in when you're needed.
When
a guy's hung up, what do you guys? What's a What's a bullfighter do?
When a guy's hung up, if a bull's in a spin, depending on where you're positioned at it, one guy should probably try to get to the bull's head and try to straighten him out a little bit to give the other guy a good shot to go to the hand and get him popped loose. And there's no always set, you're going to the head and I'm going to the hand, because it's just going to depend on where the guys are.
You ever had to cut a rope?
Never did. I never carried a knife.
I'm just wondering if...
Yeah, no, I know some guys that have, but we didn't, no. Probably the scariest time, and I forget who it was hung up. We were at the PBR in Greensboro, North Carolina, and they were hung up, and I got the bull by the tail, and he's hung up so long that I see Ross Coleman come running with a pocket knife out, and I'm thinking, oh boy, I know that, because the guy gets hit, you don't ever know where things are going. It's just,
could stab you in the ear.
No, I don't want no part of that pocket knife. Let's just, if it's tied on there, we can get him out.
Did you wear any pads underneath your clothes?
Well,
or anything?
in the early years, no. But back and then right about the time Lane passed away, we'd already started wearing some motocross vests. I saw Miles, and Miles got me started wearing a motocross vest. Then we went to the more traditional vests that you see nowadays that the bullfighters are wearing. I wore a set of football girdle pads, just to be able to absorb a little bit of hit on your hips area. Some elbow pads and knee pads, just because nothing's worse than when you've got whacked in an elbow or on the knees. Just try to have a little bit of padding there just to help with the taps, because you mess with the bull. You mess with the bull, you're going to get the horn sooner or later. It don't matter how good you are.
Yeah, that old saying is true.
Right. Did you do much flying, or did you drive the most of them?
I flew. When I was on the West Coast during my first marriage, I flew a lot those PBRs to go back this way. I drove to the bigger portion of everything.
Yeah.
Boy, were you part of the bull riders only that was pre-PBR?
I didn't ever work any of the bull riders only.
It seemed like that was really the start of
that helped get everything off the ground.
These televised bull riding.
Shaw Sullivan's bull riders
only. And then
only.
the PBR and that were competitors for a little while.
For a little
The
bit,
bull riders only kind of fell off. And then the PBR, this thing's sending the Cowboys into the stratosphere.
PBR is now on a $1,000 buy-in. The PBR is now a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Were you one of the original investors?
No, I wasn't. But those 20 bull riders, they did well.
Yeah, they did. These Cowboys, they're more famous than pretty much any Cowboy ever thought about being. I'm just waiting for them to take the PBR to Dubai or something next.
Well, what about the Kid Rock Rodeo we're fixing to have with the team rodeo?
Oh yeah, are you one of the coaches in that?
No, I'm not a coach, but the WCRA we have a team, and there's going to be 6 teams there. It's going to be some pretty wild stuff. Two bareback riders, 2 saddle bronc riders, 2 barrel racers, 2 breakaway ropers, 2 tie down ropers, 2 teams in the team roping.
That's not a new concept. Way back in the early 80s, late 70s, there was a
Calgary Stampede,
a team rodeo. No, we had Tulsa Twisters. It was a team.
Right.
And, they would go against the Kansas City Trailblazers. And they would go head to head.
Trivia. Who was the star of the Tulsa Twisters?
I don't know. I'm going to guess Paul Lee.
Terry Don West, maybe. Don West was a cab roper.
Terry Don.
Yeah, that was before
Terry
Don's
Don's not that old.
No, that's way before. His dad was a cab roper.
Who was the bull riding guru? We mentioned him earlier.
Who was it?
Bobby Del Vecchio.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
shoot,
Huh?
yeah. I didn't know that.
So
from New York.
And you asked about greatest bull rides. Mm-hmm. Lyle Sankey rides 777s at El Paso that year. I fight bulls. He's 93, 94 points on 777s. We get to Tulsa, to the old Johnny Lee with the old Coliseum.
Okay.
Okay, we're 1980, 81, right in there.
Yeah, it's still there.
And 777s is out 3 times that week. Lyle Sankey, Don Gay, Bobby Del Vecchio.
Wow.
He threw all 3 of them off in a week. Huh? And everybody was going on about Bobby Delvecchio because he just Tulsa Twisters, Team Rodeo. You know, they were all, Delvecchio's going to stick it all over him. Delvecchio didn't stick it all over. He rode him about 6 seconds, but he slapped him 5 times in 6 seconds. He just kept jerking him down, sit back up. But, 777s. That bull was something else.
We had the old owner of the Tulsa Twisters in town the other day. He actually went to prison over the whole deal on money embezzling from the Tulsa Twisters. He was in town the other day. I mean, it's a weird small world out there. But you know, I heard Kid Rock on the Joe Rogan experience the other day, and he was trying to tell everyone that I don't know why they haven't thought about having teams in rodeo before or not, but you know, I can think of about 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, well, Calgary,
done something
Canada,
like this.
Canada, Calgary Stampede for a few years there had team rodeo up there at the Stampede.
Yeah, and before that, wasn't the Winston tour where, you know, Lane was on the Copenhagen Skull team, and I think Roy
Cooper was on that. Yep, I remember it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was another team.
But there were, you know,
and that was through the PRCA actually.
Right.
Yeah,
at that
and
time.
I remember,
but it was
like,
a team
even
sport.
then, the like some of the teams, the sponsors for the teams would be Copenhagen Skull. Okay, well, you used to work for them. You know, that's that goes right in with rodeo. That was one of their deals. But then there'd be Walt Woodard was on the Polaroid team.
Yeah, I think they had an American Airlines team.
Yeah, you know, just weird stuff like that. You know, but that I thought that was they were trying to reach out and expand it into, you know, bring new money in at that time, and really didn't take a hold and bite like it should have. And that's one thing I think that the PBR has done outstandingly well is their marketing.
Their marketing's through the roof.
You know, they have in their system, like they've got, okay, we don't have a backyard grill sponsor. Let's go find a company that makes backyard grills that wants to give us money to put their product on the front of our buck and shoot. You know, they try to fill their entire fan demographic with put a product that them people use on a weekly basis in front of them on the PBR deal every single time. And I thought, that's smart.
I know they can make a one event deal work like no one's ever done it before.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how their multi-event, you know, head-to-head rodeo style is going to be. It's a lot more moving parts than they're used to, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it works out. You know, there hasn't been a real competitor to pro rodeo in a long time. Not a real one. They've tried to compete with it a few times. Took it all the way to the Supreme Court to compete with them, and twice actually, and no one's ever beat them in that. So this is going to be real interesting because, you know, with that PBR behind it and Kid Rock behind it and having it at AT&T Stadium.
Well, it's going to be able to possibly, you know, open up things where the PBR can go in for a couple days and reach the demographic of your bull riding fans. Then you go in with a concert aspect of things, and you're going to draw that concert group and some rodeo fans that, you know, they're going to do good, I think.
There's a lot of these PBR guys, you know, they're household names.
Right.
A lot of households, you know.
Well, they're in the household every week.
Yes.
On TV.
You know, and it is an extreme sport. You know, there's no limit to what they're going to end up doing. Did you go to the Madison Square Garden when they had?
I've been to the Garden, yes, sir. The House of Champions right there. You got to go to the Garden.
What's it like?
Me and Miles both went back in the day. But we went back when World's Toughest took rodeo back to Madison Square Garden, and then I went to the Garden with the PBR when we first started there, back with Bill Selman and Bud Light, and we all.
How do they get all the stock in there? It looked like it was crazy. Best I remember, I was watching it.
They truck them and then they run them up the ramps up there to get to the right floor, and you've seen video of it. On Facebook, you see them running them up the ramps, and But that's the House of Champions. Yeah. Marciano, Ali, Joe Frazier, Roberta Duran. I'm a fight fan, so you know, to walk through there and you see the flyers of those old fights and stuff in there, and it just the little hair on the back of your neck just stand right up. I mean, that's the House of Champions.
How do they get one of those coliseums ready to put a rodeo on in there? The ground in it, Rob?
You know, it's amazing how fast that they can get one ready. The dirt, those dump trucks start rolling in. They lay things down. Some of them back in the day, even they've put dirt down on top of the ice because they had a hockey game coming into that building right afterwards. You know, that old ground was cold. You'd get some moisture coming up through the dirt and stuff at some of those. But, you know, they've learned how to battle with that. Put the plastic down, put the dirt down, those trucks roll in. It's amazing how fast, and that crew, the PBR's got a great dirt crew. Those guys now have been together for several years, and they know what they're doing. They're used to, okay, skid steer over here, dump trucks rolling here, bang, and they're in and out. They can knock one out in 24 hours.
They had the best guy ever. Gosh dang it, his name just slipped me. I think he just died like last year. He was the guy that
Jerome Robinson.
I used to work for him when I was a kid. The Kansas Coliseum ready for the rodeo there.
Yeah.
He'd call us local kids, and we'd go help him.
National Finals Rodeo bull rider Jerome Robinson.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Producer. I mean, Jerome Robinson.
I can't believe I forgot his name. I'm embarrassed.
Plus, Jerome helped start Procom.
Jerome was a good dude.
Back in the day. Jerome Robinson was one sharp man and a class act. Through in and out of the arena, no matter what. If Jerome Robinson shook your hand and said that's the way it was going to be, that was it. You didn't have to have a contract. He was good for what he said. As good a man as a guy could want to be around.
And he knew how to put on a rodeo.
Yes, sir.
Holy moly, and get it ready to put on. I mean, I really watched what he did and paid attention to him for some reason, and it always stuck with me that I was glad to have met and got to know Jerome Robinson, and especially the behind the scenes part on how they put it together. It was a lot of hard work.
Oh yeah.
I don't think the PBR grows into what it has become today without him.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like it may have eventually, but I don't think it would be where it is today in 2024.
He's a heck of a producer.
Without Jerome's guidance through the deal.
You know, Jimbo, I knew who Rob was for a long time as a bullfighter, but I think maybe the first time he tried to retire, he decided to pick up steer roping. And he used to come down to the house down there by McAllister all the time in Interstate. I think he won his first steer roping there even.
When Carla, before, after I broke my neck the second time, Carla didn't want me fighting bulls anymore. And so she sent me to Guy Allen's school. And there's another class act. Guy Allen. I got to go to his school. And having done schools, you know, I've taught bullfighting schools forever, and with Lane, with Tuff, with Donnie Gay, with whoever had gold buckles. I've done schools with all of those guys. And I wondered, man, Guy Allen, from whatever I'd been around him, is a pretty quiet guy. And I thought, I wonder how this school's going to be, how he's going to come across, you know. And what an amazing teacher. What an amazing teacher, and what a great school. And we were at the school up there in Canadian, and man, we tripped steers and tied steers, and guys be standing right there in line with us, string, tie, get down, you know, and just was such a great teacher. It was a lot of fun. We passed the old Roan Horse Arena. Used to come up here and trip steers, me and Randy Stalls.
Yeah, you did.
Brought back some old memories coming into town today.
Rob, what would you change about your career if you could do it all over again? Anything?
You know, the thing about change is if you change something, then it had to have changed something else. And I've been blessed. You know, I mean, I've won the world 5 times. You know, when I broke my neck the 3rd time in 2006, Carla looked over at me and she said, "Hey, you're still on your feet." My wife's a school teacher, was a school teacher. At that time we were married just short of 20 years. And she goes, "I don't want to push you in a wheelchair." She goes, what else do you need from this sport?" She goes, "You got your gold buckles, you worked the NFR, you worked the PBR finals. What haven't you got out of this that you were after?" And how could I argue with her? You know, I'd been blessed. It's taken me from Hawaii to Florida, Alaska to Brazil, almost every state in the United States. I've been with the best bull riders in the world, you know, got to make a living taking care of my friends, and, you know, it was never work. But if I wasn't married right now, I think I'd be back in my cleats again.
Hell, he looks like he'd go back out there right now.
The other day, my wife looked over at me and Carla goes, "What are you thinking?" And I said, "I want to go back and fight bulls."
You probably could.
Well, and I want to.
You should have heard him last night. His motor was running hot up there. Had a bunch of young bulls.
I love the game. I love the game. I really did. And if the good Lord was to say, "Smets, I'm taking you out of here tomorrow," but I'm going to even be so nice as to say, "I'll give you your choice. How do you want to go? Give me my cleats and you take me right there." That's where I'd want. Let's go out playing the game I love.
Why don't you get into some providing fighting bulls around?
Well, and I had some fighting bulls for a while.
Did you?
I mean, we've got 20 acres there in Stephenville. Finding a place to keep those kind of cattle, you just don't have everybody willing to put them on their place.
Hey, we never did get around to the uniform. How you got all that changed?
So
let's get that in real quick.
So the jersey deal. We were at the 2000 PBR Finals. Joe, Jimmy, Dennis Johnson, and I working the finals that year. And we'd been talking. Sean Gleason had started talking about wanting to change the look of the bullfighters, and that they wanted something that had a more athletic look. And so a friend of mine, Duncan Dickinson, that's a graphic arts designer out of Chicago up there, we all get to talking, and we're at a restaurant one day, and on a napkin, we start doing some drawing, and we end up talking with CarQuest and ASE to automobiles, supplies, and ASE's the mechanics and CarQuest the auto supplies. And so we talked to them and got them to come on board as my sponsors. And so we designed a jersey, and I sit in the dressing room. We're at the finals. Nobody knows this is coming out, right? I've got the jersey, I've got the shorts, but I haven't said a word to anybody. I'm sitting in my chair just like we're sitting right here, and I'm waiting for Joe and Dennis and Jimmy to get out of the dressing room. And they finally head down the moat, and as they head down the moat, I'm pulling things on in a hurry so that I can get there so I'm not late for introductions. And as I get down there to the arena, as I get introduced, and they go, "What in the heck?" And I said, "Just new deal, a new look." And I had several people. It was amazing how many people said, What are you breaking tradition? And I said, "I'm not breaking tradition. This is not rodeo. This is bull riding. We're setting a whole new tradition." And I said, "Look at this." I said, "These guys wrote me a check for this CarQuest and ASE. I got a deal for a year." And it was a pretty darn good deal, And the PBR left me alone. We did it that first year, and then the next year, all of a sudden, we became the Carhartt Bullfighters.
Oh, yeah.
Because of Sean Gleason and Randy and them, they saw the value of it. And rather than just the bull riders that are out there for maybe 8 seconds a minute at the most, we were in front of people for 2 hours with all their logos on. And so, that deal, that transition's coming. And I mean, needless to say, look at, everybody's got a bullfighting jersey now.
That Shorty Gorham now, they mic him up at several of the bull riders.
Right.
Did they ever mic you up?
Shorty took my job with the mic.
Okay.
Yeah. I wore the mic there for 4 or 5 years. They tried putting it on Joe Baumgartner, and Joe kind of drops the F-bomb a little too much.
Yeah.
And they went, whoa, get that off of him.
There's been a slew of good bullfighters come out of California,
Oh, yeah.
Him, Dwayne Hargo.
Dwayne Hargo, the amazing raisin. Hargo could fight bulls. Joe Baumgartner, second to none,
Is he the guy that owns the bar out there, or used to?
Yeah, Joe had a bar out there, yep, in Red Bluff.
That takes me into my next question. If you were putting together a Mount Rushmore of clowns, who would you put on it? Need 4 names.
And hold on,
I've already said them.
When we say clowns,
no,
does that rub you wrong?
Well, no, but
because we're rodeo guys,
and that's fine.
Yeah,
my 4: Wick, Skipper, Jimmy, and Miles. That's my 4 because they were my 4 core. Golly, though,
Rex.
If Rex could be there, but Mount Rushmore's 4.
Yeah.
I mean, those are my top 4. Rex done. We worked our very first NFR together, 1983, Oklahoma City. We had never worked a rodeo together, and they put us in at the biggest show in the world together. Rex is great. All around. Leon Coffey's got to be close to be on there, you know.
Hey, what about Barrelmen?
You know, well, Barrelmen.
What about put a Mount Rushmore of Barrelmen together for us real quick?
Now you're going to throw me under the bus. Okay. Quail Dobbs.
That's my hero.
Without a doubt.
Growing up, I love that guy.
John Taylor. Rick Young. Leon Coffey.
Hard to leave.
You know, now.
What about Flint?
Well, and I was just going to say Flint, but you also have to look 2 different gamuts. One, guys are wired with the mic on right now, right? Flint, Leon, you know, Leon's still with a little bit now but Leon's been through the deal of no mic, just the pantomime, just the bantering with the announcer.
Yeah, I love the banter with the announcer.
John Taylor, when he used to do that snort act, and he'd come out in that arena with that little fake horse and those pickup horses that go to jumping sideways and spook, and he had that little squeaky voice. He was just as funny as could be, you know. And Flint had the benefit of the people. Now, don't get me wrong, Flint's is funny and great, but he's in everybody's house every week, just like we just got done talking about. The PBR, they set you right in everybody's house every Saturday night. I mean, no doubt. And Flint, deservingly so, is a Hall of Famer. You know, so is Leon Coffey. So is John Taylor. So is Quail Dobbs.
Liesl.
Liesl Harris. You know, as far as comedy, how could you not have him? But Rick Young, 2 years ago when he went in the Hall of Fame in Colorado Springs, he was 89 years old. And when he walks up and gets to this microphone and starts giving his speech, let me tell you what, Rick Young was still selling tickets at 89 years old at the Hall of Fame. Just with his comedy and his talking and his telling his stories, and the guy is just, what a great man.
Did you ever have an act in the early days that was yours?
Nope. I never.
I thought maybe you had to have one getting started out, or just part of the deal.
Well, I worked some rodeos with Donnie Landis. We were talking about Bill Landis helped get me started. Donnie had the axe, and I pretty much fought bulls a little better than Donnie. So between us, we went and did things. But what kind of turned me off the axe was every once in a while a bomb wouldn't go off or something. You'd feel like, gosh, how foolish did we look out here?
You know who was the grumpiest clown I'd go around and bug growing up? Ted Kimsey. Boy, he was funny out in the arena, but he was sure grumpy out by his camper.
And there's another guy for the Hall of Fame, though. You want to talk about a guy that would pick a barrel up on the baddest cats in town and march into hell with you is Ted Kimsey.
For sure.
You know?
And he raised 2 pretty successful bull riders himself.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
I could talk this rodeo clown and bullfighting stuff all day long. I mean, that was my passion growing up. This is a pretty big day for me, Jimbo.
Right.
To have Rob Smets in here.
I imagine. But you didn't mention any of the old clowns. You know, a lot of people might not know Jimmy Nesbitt was an old rodeo clown.
Right.
Big bulldog, but he's got the #1 turtle pin.
So, and that's before me.
Sure, way before. But I'm just saying,
right?
They were had a pretty big influence.
I didn't really get to see, Buck LeGrand.
He was one of the
who's on our wall right here.
He was one of the very first bullfighter and funny man rodeo clown to be inducted in Oklahoma City.
Right, Gene and Bobby Clark.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the names, but for me to get to say that I see Junior Meeks that I mentioned earlier about one of the first to be known for jumping bulls off the ground, but
who was the 2 guys they traveled around as a pair way back in the day? Was it Meeks and somebody?
It was Cajun and Buck, right?
I don't remember. I have an old sports news somewhere, and they have a big ad. They're advertising for the year.
Would have been Gene and Bobby Clark, the Clark brothers.
Maybe, but they were advertising, trying to sell their clown services and bullfighting services for the year.
Was it Junior and George Doak? Maybe?
It was, and then and a big star. It said, "Now sober." Booking for whatever. Booking for the year 1957, and it had like a big starburst around it.
Wow.
It says, "Now sober," in the year-end edition of the Sports
Sure.
News. I just,
Wow.
I always thought that was great.
That's good.
I always thought that was great. You're still sponsored, 65 years old. Who's all your sponsors?
Well, Wrangler's been good to me. Cactus Ropes, Berryburg down there, Pleasanton, Texas. If you're going to swing ropes, you may as well swing a cactus.
They make it good.
And Smarty makes an awful good training, lots of good training equipment for my horses and
Bronc
for
riders
me.
and everything now.
You know, yeah, they are. They're into the bronc riding part of it. And,
Bulldogging.
yep.
I think, do they have a bullfighting machine yet?
We don't have a bullfighting machine yet. And then also they've purchased Helamatic.
Holy moly. So they got the market cornered in all
Yeah.
the
They're
tools.
They're doing well. So
I'm fixing to buy me a Smarty for the house. So.
that Smarty, I tell you what, they're so good just for the fact of you can slow everything down. You know, things get too fast. Let's back it off a couple miles an hour. Get that horse into a repetition and just working on things you can't beat. And you can get so many cuts in, good quality cuts in a short time. That's awesome.
Well, it's a shortcut to make a horse all day long. I can see that. You can make a horse way quicker than running them one at a time out of the chute all day long. You can get them nice and patterned, and you can work on your own self all at the same time.
Yep.
Low stress, too.
And that's what I was telling someone the other day. We were talking about the sleds and stuff, and I said the majority of people that start horses, like that's what they do is start rope horses. They've got a pen full of steers that you can outrun on foot, and that's where they start those horses. You know, some of those guys use the sled too. I said, but most people want to try to start a horse on cattle that's too strong, and most of the time the horses come unwound, and then you have to wind up putting them back together,
Right.
if you can.
Well, that
If you
happens on
can,
every one of them. They
yeah.
all come unwound a little bit,
Yeah.
and then you do got to go back. And
Yep.
it takes a while.
Yep.
It takes a while, but they have shortened the training curve.
A whole bunch.
lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot. And producing a lot of really tough bronc riders and ropers and stuff from those machines, too.
And then the sponsor that's hung around forever, Wrangler Jeans. Wrangler been awful good. You know, they put on the bullfights. We were able to go, you know, like I mentioned, from one part of the country to the other, and that was because Wrangler got the bullfight program going for us. And
Did you ever meet
opened
Dale
a lot of doors.
Earnhart? He was sponsored by Wrangler.
So Dale Earnhardt was sponsored by Wrangler. We were in Greensboro, North Carolina, the home of Wrangler Jeans, at the semifinals bullfights. Me, Rex Dunn, Skipper Voss. Who else was there? Jimmy Anderson. There would have been one more. Bob Donaldson, I think. 6 of us there, and we're at the bullfight. And Earnhardt had just won the year end for NASCAR, and him and Rick Childress came down into our dressing room, the Wrangler Bullfighters, and I got to meet Dale Earnhardt. Yeah, the Intimidator come down to our dressing room, got to meet him.
He just seemed like a badass.
Yeah, he was cool.
It'd have been a good one to drive you around the rodeos travel with, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
He'd get you there.
He would have got us there for sure.
So are we ending this with a trivia question today?
We can.
Is that what you guys do normally?
No, we don't normally end it with the
But
Mount
you
Rushmore.
can. You got a good one.
Oh, you usually end it with Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
So 1972, two men at the National Finals
Okay.
won 2 events.
I know
Each.
one of them.
Won 2 events each. You know, yeah.
Are you talking about average or
what?
world championship?
They won the NFR average in 2 events.
Well, yeah, that'd
Oh, I
be
know both. I know both.
The first one is from.
from Bartlesville.
California now. You
Oh,
know.
Now, but he's from here.
So see, and that's
Did you know-
usually not the one that people guess first, because I was going to say the first guy comes from Cotulla, Texas.
Right.
Right.
That's Phil Line.
Phil Line.
And we're
Who's the
talking
other
about
one?
Ace Berry.
Ace,
Berry.
let's see, you guys.
Did you know he's from Osage County also?
do you-
He's from
do you
right
rea-
here.
Do you realize that you two right here are the first two that to be able to go, I got it.
Oh.
Because I used that trivia question when I would host at the MGM. We'd do the deal
Right.
during the NFR, and I'd ask that, and
It's unbelievable.
Phil Line, but how many people didn't know Ace?
Not to this day, no one's ever going to do what Phil and Ace did. Bareback riding and heeling.
Right.
Holy moly!
Right.
Calf roping,
Calf roping
bull
and riding bulls. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You know, Ace gets overlooked a lot on that because Phil won the world championships, but Ace is probably the greatest all-around cowboy to not ever win one.
Right.
Honestly, he really is. A roper and a bareback rider, we'll never see that again.
Yeah. Well, we did. You know who it was?
Pete Hawkins, I don't know.
No.
He won around at Cheyenne.
No, but it went to the NFR in both events. I got one. He's from California also, though.
Who is it?
Gilligan. Gary Hempstead.
Oh, I have heard of Gary Hempstead.
Gary Hempstead went in the bareback riding, and he healed one year at the NFR.
Was he invited or did he?
No, he made, yeah.
I've got one for you, Jimbo. He was talking earlier. Him and Miles tied for the world title.
Mm-hmm.
Other than team roping, has there ever been another tie for a world championship, and who was it?
That would
If
have to
there
be
was
one
a-
of the years they gave it away for the average.
Well, the two
Not
all-around
money.
guys tied once, Leo and Tom Ferguson.
Tom Ferguson, Leo Camarel. And they said that the reason why they had it was
Can't get one
that
by
it came
Jimbo.
up to that was there was a little bit of discussion whether or not these numbers were right, that number was right, whatever. But Mama Ferguson had all of her stuff straight. But they said that they had some money counted from Gerald that had went to Leo's count and some money from Tom's brother that had went to his count and then vice versa anyway. So they decided, instead of doing all that, we're going to give you both a buckle.
Oh, wow.
Tied for the all-around championship
Wow.
that year. That was
So
Leo.
this past year at the National Finals Rodeo, I performed service for Tom Ferguson and Teresa Maris, and they got married out there at South Point.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Tom Ferguson and I lived on the same road, Columbus Avenue, in San Martin, California.
Wow. It's a small world out there. One of his trophies is sitting over here in this hotel in town, or it was here a
Yeah.
while back. I think he might have lost it in a divorce.
You
or
want
something.
to you want to talk about a gamer, and a guy that can sit there like this and just be real jovial and stuff until all of a sudden you say, "What about this?" You know, and you start talking the game, and I mean those eyes change, and it's your tip needs to be here. We need to be. It's all business. You don't go run one to go run one for fun. It was all to do better. You know, I mean, yeah. The love of the game, that guy's all about it.
He was one of the greatest.
He was a
for sure.
great champion.
Yeah, we've had Roy Cooper put him on his
This is Mount
Mount
Rushmore calf
Rushmore.
roper. So
Yep.
I remember that. Sure did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tom Ferguson said he was the
Tom
toughest cowboy he ever
Tom
knew.
Terrific, the first $1 million cowboy.
How important is the history of rodeo to you, Rob?
It's important.
Obviously, he's the president of the Rodeo Historical
I love it,
Society.
You know, I mean, what really amazed me was a few years back, and it's been 15 or 20 now, I guess. Kendra and I got invited to go do the Miss Rodeo California pageant there in Paso Robles, and the girls that they had, their lack of knowledge of the sport. They were like they'd gone and found a bunch of queens from the AQHA or something that had all the nice, pretty outfits and everything. But as far as no rodeo, they didn't have a clue.
Everybody can name the greats in baseball, football, all that. And
Well, I
me
do
and
that-
Jimbo want to beat people to do the same thing in
I do
rodeo.
that trivia question every week, and one time I said, "Who's the first black man to make the NFR?" And I had people telling me Charles Sampson. You know, and I said, "Give me a break." You know, here Murtis Dykeman broke all that ground and
Yeah.
went through everything he went through, and you've already forgot his name. You don't even know his name.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's what me and Jimbo's all
Yeah.
about.
And you know, and the thing about it is, you can walk up to the rodeo grounds right here today, and the guys that are competing, how many of them
Right.
ain't got a
Right.
clue?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Do some homework, boys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
No, we're just trying to keep all these memories alive.
It's good.
Trying to keep just these guys back in the forefront of everyone's mind because they're the ones that broke all this ground for us. There wouldn't even be a rodeo association without part of
That's
these
it.
guys. So, well, howdy, we sure appreciate you coming on, Rob.
Thanks so much for having us. Well,
man,
I
we
appreciate
loved
it.
it.
And
And you know what's great about a rodeo family? You can go years and years and years without seeing someone, and it's just like yesterday, you know, to us guys that when we do finally see each
Yeah.
other.
It's good.
There's nothing better than the rodeo life.
Nope.
The rodeo way of life is the only life for me, Jimbo.
I don't get it. Dale and I, we see each other a couple times a year. We're right here, come to the Iowa tribe, we talk on the phone, but we become good buddies while we were working together. And I mean, it's fun just to get to be here. So 5:30 tonight, we're going to do church service at the rodeo, and 7 o'clock we'll be rodeoing there at the Iowa Tribe Arena, Perkins, Oklahoma.
Do you do like a weekly deal on your online?
I do a message daily usually. We were out too late last night. I slept through it, but it's 7 a.m. on my Facebook page. I got a page. I got a personal page. I don't do it on there. I've got a pages page. All you have to do is hit follow, and I share a little bit of what the Father puts on my heart.
Rob Smets fan page.
7 o'clock. Yep. 7 o'clock in the mornings.
I look at it about 8 every day.
Yep.
I don't catch it live. That's too early for me, Jimbo.
Doesn't matter when you catch it, as long as you catch it.
All right. Thank you, Rob, for coming on. We sure appreciate it. His truck's broke down. We got to get him back on the road so he can make this rodeo tonight.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
later.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dale,
Jimbo.
for sitting in with that.